nós temos vindo a observar, e eu penso que a pandemia exponenciou, mas também veio contribuir a revelar algo que já estava latente antes, que é um facto que a enorme consciência de vivermos num mundo frágil e da nossa própria vulnerabilidade nos está a afetar profundamente. A questão das possibilidades e da forma como as práticas artísticas podem engajar-se, podem dialogar com o presente e com questões urgentes ligadas a mudanças climáticas é complexa e não é linear. Por muito tempo falou-se da arte como uma forma de sensibilizar, de dar a ver. Eu penso que isso seja pouco, porque arriscamos que a produção artística se limite a ser quase uma ilustração de um mundo em mudança e de um mundo em angustiante transformação. E seria ideal se conseguisse fazer mais do que a mera ilustração.
The art that I do is not causal to me as an individual. So maybe art's job, and in particular dance that doesn't reach so big audience numbers, maybe our job is not to inform, but rather practice together, both with the people in the studio, but also with an audience, different modalities of how can I develop these ethics? From where does my way of viewing the world arrive? So one could say that what we do is to develop different modes of being in the world that is otherwise than what we know as extractivist industrial capitalism. What will come out of this, we have to be careful to not know. Because if we know, then I would become, and Hana and I would become some kind of gurus that will give to the world the solution. No, we also don't have solutions. But maybe we also have to consider this, that capitalism is not going to make it better or worse, maybe a little bit. But if we want a prominent change of how the world operates, we also have to have a new system. And that is something that I believe art can support with, of finding the big starting points for how to perceive the world otherwise, how to value our environments, friendships, and those friendships are maybe with other humans, other animals, but it's also how do I walk the earth, how do I feel my relationships to the ground, and so on and forth. Today we have to be careful not to make art into culture, but the specificity to the encounter with art in regard of its intimacy with spiritual experiences.
I have always understood that we're in some kind of climate emergency. That's the sort of cosmology that I grew up in. So I accept that. And I still try to make sense of myself and the world around me. And one of the ways that I do that is through thinking about interspecies relationships. So I like to think about this notion of companionship in relation to interspecies relationships. So human and animal, plant, mineral and human. And to think about companionship through dance and through choreography, and how being closer with animals can lead us into other kinds of temporalities and perceptions and perspectives on ourselves, and also in our dance making, our art making.
We are the form of this enjoyment declined only to the third person, of which we can never experience. Life is only the echo of this pleasure that has become geology. Species are fossils of an ancestral pleasure of mixing one's gene. And as volcanoes, however, we cannot prevent ourselves from trying to repeat this pleasure related to a strange transformation of our bodies. All species do nothing but desperately seek this pleasure. And loving the planet, after all, means trying to share this pleasure with as many life forms as possible.
certas pessoas que talvez tenham expectativas mais tradicionais ligadas ao que a arte é e faz, possam ficar surpreendidas porque afastamos de uma componente representativa ou ilustrativa para uma componente de ação e com isso estamos também a mudar, talvez aproximando-nos de tradições como a ideia da escultura social para mostrar que a arte pode ser ativa e pode gerar transformação e ação direta no espaço.